This is in response to Ericthecarguy talking about tools and your favorite tools and the tools that you use. Mine are actually in an incredible state of disarray at the moment because I've been working on about 5 different projects and I have the mental capacity to actually work with one at a time, and unfortunately dividing everything like that has made me put all of my stuff into piles like this. Like right now, for example, got a hydraulic line made up here for my excavator because the excavator, well, it blew a line while we were working on it. And these are the fittings that are going to go with that. Anyways, those aren't tools, so they don't really matter. Most of my tools are comprised of old pieces of garbage like this. It's an old proto. I've gathered enough rust on this thing, but I've had it for 30 years. Pretty amazing. These are my newest and favorite things. These little guys here, I don't even know if they got a name on them, gear wrench, so you can tell that's a high quality unit, but they do have a pretty decent tooth count on them. And the ratchet wrenches are narrow enough so you can work into some pretty confined spaces with it. So these are actually pretty cool tools. I'm pretty happy with those. Oh yeah, and Eric had a handmade hammer. This would be my handmade hammer. A nice solid piece of stock there. You don't want to use this hammer in the winter because it gets very, very cold. And that works pretty well. Oh, before I leave the table, looks like I have other stuff out here that I wanted to mention. We were talking about Mac tools. This is one of my absolute favorite Mac tools. Spin that thing all around. It's got the handle that pops in and out, or used to anyways, so you can crank it around. It's actually it's a very handy tool, and it's long enough so it gives you quite a great deal of additional torque if you're pulling stuff apart. Most of my sockets are all Craftsman, and I got the older Craftsman sockets, but they're probably just as good as the newer ones. But the newer ones, I don't know. I don't like them. The newer ones seem a lot thinner to me. I like my old school ones. These things they're just beasts, and I very rarely break a socket. And I got some big sockets. This guy here, that's a big socket. Although that's not a, yeah, it is a Craftsman. Well, I'll be darned. And then these things I think these are for pulling the fronts off from Fords. I can't remember what this one is. Maybe for the Jeep? I don't mismember. Giant wrench, which is just a crappy unit that I got of Tractor Supply, but I needed it because sometimes you need these great big giant monsters to be able to pull like the blades off in the mowers and things. Rubber gloves, which you can see I neatly put those things away. I was trying to see if there are any tools of note in here. Like I said, most of my stuff is the Craftsman ratchets. I even have a couple of the real old school ones with the oiler up on top. I've tried to keep these in as good a condition as I can because the newer Craftsman ratchets suck. They jam up a lot. Their tooth count's a lot lower. Like my old ones were like 32 count. I think these are 24 or something ridiculous like that. I have a bunch of these little guys as well. I'm trying to figure out who they are. Yeah, these are Snap-on. The double enders, these are what I have for standard. And he's actually supposed to be down here in the standard drawer, where I gotta hold this one way back, where I have giant wrenches like this, that, Electrolyte. Wow, well, that's got to be a fancy brand. You can beat people over the head with this thing. It's very handy for that sort of deal. I've got a lot of the speed ratchets because I use those a lot. I've got some really, really old wrenches that I keep around because I found them in a box when I moved into the house. There was a big box out in the back of the house, and tools were in them, and I just can't bear to throw away tools. Love this guy. These guys are super handy, so you can get in and around blind corners that you can't even see. Let's see. This is my metric bin, and the metric bin, of course, includes this pile here, which I was supposed to put away. As you can see, it does in fact have a spot. air tools. Let's see, assorted monkey wrenches, crescent wrenches. Every once in a while, these guys make their way in there. Sometimes they don't. Hey, look at that, another loose one. Here's another one of my little favorite tools. Use this little tapper guy. I don't even really know what the hell it's for, but I use it for a little teeny tiny hammer. So I'll put that in the hammer drawer. Oh, hey, that's right. While I'm out here, I guess I can organize some of this stuff. You get in there, stay. I had a rubber mount. Yeah, there it is. Rubber mount. Use that every once in a while. The bar that Eric was talking about before, although mine aren't as pretty. And I got the big breaker bar that doesn't fit in anywhere. And actually, I had kind of like the lead pipe that Eric was talking about. I had that somewhere. Yep, here it is. Except for I've got a steel pipe. The reason why I used steel pipe was because the steel pipe was free, and it came off my Suzuki Samurai, and because I use Craftsman, mine is specially custom modified. Oh yeah, that works. Anyways, that's supposed to be down here with the ouch, brass drift, and all these other crazy things. And then the final drawer is just a bunch of cast-off extras that I had kicking around, including a giant tent spike, which, hey, you never know. Test meter. I'm not going to bother to take it out because I can't with one hand. Here's a... I do a lot of electronic work. I have a nice Weller set up here. Somewhere there's a box with all these tips, but I don't know where they are. And as this is the only one that I really use anyways, I don't care. Doesn't really matter. That was a great unit that I found. It's not just the light, it actually is OD green. This is from when I was in the military, and I won't say that I stole it, but I will say that it may possibly have fallen into my stuff when I left the Army. Of course, I've got my heat gun, which is very good for heat shrink tubing and that sort of thing. Fantastic tool. I love this thing. My vise, which came with the house. That's an old monster. I use that thing all the time. Another vise, just in case you don't have enough vices. Yeah, you'll get that joke later. Then, of course, I've got my scissor table, so that the scissor table will keep everything hopefully up at working height. This is actually a pretty cool device. I had this for a few years. I won't go all the way up on it. You get the basic idea. If I back up a little farther, I suppose you get the basic idea. And then, I guess the last thing I'll show is, well, the welder, which is in a box. It's a little Hobart 140. It's too much of a pain to unwrap it, but you know what a welder looks like. Pull this apart. And there is my gigantic Magnum Force. Can't see it, but there's a fan up in here for sucking air out so that my compressor doesn't absolutely cook up. Yeah, can't see anything at all in there. But trust me, it's set up fairly well. Got it rigged up so that the air lines come up and over the top of the shop. Comes over to here. I keep my associated fillers and fittings right there. And then if I go into the other cabinet, which is once again another massive disaster. I have some air tools here, which I haven't really used in years. Oh, hey, look at that. I'll be darned. I forgot I even had that thing still. Cool. I'm going to have to use that this weekend. But that's it. That's pretty much what's in my shop. I have a ton of other tools that are kicking around, you know, little useless things, like my clamps. I love clamps. Lots of clamps. You never know when you're going to need them. But, basically that's about all I've got here. A lot of other things that I've had at one point or another. I've usually set them on the bumper of my vehicle, and then I've driven off and I've left them out in the middle of a muddy road somewhere. So I probably got about $4,000 worth of tools that are somewhere else. That's it for me.